Welcome back to the Deep Dive, the place where we cut through all the noise and give you the essential distilled insights from the sources you really need to know.
And today we're really tearing apart the conventional wisdom about leadership.
We are. We're doing a deep dive into Chris R. Velazquez's guide, Leading from the Inside Out, Beyond Authority, How Servant Leadership Shapes Lasting Success.
This is a big one.
It really is. And if you ever looked at a successful leader in business, ministry, really anywhere, and wondered why they often seem so, burnt out, or why their success felt so fragile, then this deep dive is absolutely for you. Our mission today is to unpack the book's central and I think pretty radical claim that true lasting success, the kind that creates generational impact, isn't found in your external achievements or, your impressive titles. It's found in a profound faith-based internal transformation.
That's absolutely right. The core argument here is that the most impactful leadership isn't just about strategy or charisma. It's built entirely on a transformed inner life.
A transformed inner life. What does that actually mean?
Velazquez argues that this inner transformation, where a leader's fundamental identity, their understanding of authority, and their pursuit of influence are all aligned, it forms this unshakable foundation for everything they do on the outside.
Okay, and this couldn't be more timely.
Oh, absolutely. We keep seeing these leadership crises, whether it's moral failures, mass organizational burnout, or, impacts that are super broad but really shallow.
Right.
Velazquez pinpoints the problem. He says it's not strategic incompetence, it's a critical spiritual misalignment. The book provides this 360-degree holistic approach. It has to be holistic, because if you only fix the external processes without fixing that internal core, the whole structure, it just eventually fails.
Okay, let's unpack this central paradox right away, because it really is the hook of the entire book. Why are so many gifted, high-performing leaders, people with all the resources and tools, why are they simultaneously exhausted, inconsistent, and ultimately disconnected from their mission?
And the book's answer is that the problem isn't a lack of knowledge or funding. It's a fundamental lack of formation.
Formation.
Yeah, it's the inside-out conviction. Leadership is framed not as an external achievement you go out and collect like a diploma or a big funding round, but as an internal transformation you have to continually undergo.
So it's a process, not a prize.
Exactly. The source material is just so clear. External capacity, no matter how brilliant your marketing, how innovative your product, or how high your positional authority is, none of that can compensate for internal instability. If you lack peace, if your spirit is shrinking on the inside, the whole endeavor is it's unsustainable.
This is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Velazquez uses this incredibly powerful analogy that it sticks with you. He says, the temptation to build influence faster than character destroys more destinies than incompetence ever will.
That's the entire point condensed right there.
It is.
Leaders who neglect that inner life, that internal shaping, they're like those famous but ultimately fragile structures. He describes them as trees with abundant branches and shallow roots, impressive for a season, vulnerable in a storm.
Wow.
And when the pressure hits, the shallow roots, that undeveloped character, they can't anchor the abundant branches, which is the impressive influence, and the whole thing just tips over.
That analogy perfectly sets the stage for the book's structure. So, to address this formation gap, Velazquez outlines 8 essential pillars that build what he calls the transforming core of leadership. We're going to group them into 3 major categories, starting with the most critical and I think often the most neglected area, the unseen work.
The stuff nobody sees.
Exactly. This starts with pillar 1, identity. And this isn't about your professional identity, it's about core intrinsic self-worth. Leadership rooted in a faith framework has to start with the declaration, I am who God says I am.
Which is a radical challenge to the modern default setting, which is, I am what I accomplish.
Right. And for a listener who's maybe focused on organizational success, we need to translate that. What does that practically mean?
It means grounding your identity in something intrinsic, something totally independent of external metrics. When your identity is secured in security,
Yeah.
it gives way to confidence. You are no longer striving to prove yourself through your performance.
So you're not on that hamster wheel.
You're not, and the benefit is enormous. Comparison just dies at the root, which allows for genuine collaboration instead of, that toxic competition we see everywhere. And crucially, your resilience strengthens during criticism and setbacks because an attack on your work isn't an attack on your core self.
Okay, so if identity is that secure grounding, how does that translate into effective action? That brings us to pillar 2, surrendered authority.
Hmm.
And I have to pause here because this is where a lot of business leaders will just bristle. Surrender sounds like weakness. In a high-stakes corporate environment, shouldn't a leader be, grasping for control, asserting their authority? How does surrender actually lead to success?
And that's the precise paradox the Lassus wants us to wrestle with. True leadership, as he lays it out, flows through surrender, not through this neurotic grasping for control.
So what is surrender in this context?
Surrender here is the purification of your motive. It means the leader recognizes they are a steward, not an owner, and the so what of that is huge.
Okay.
You stop pursuing influence for self-glory and you start pursuing impact for a transcendent purpose. This surrender cultivates this profound humility. It sharpens your discernment because you're listening for guidance beyond your own strategy. And it fundamentally shifts you from being a ruler who demands allegiance to a steward who attracts commitment.
So it's strength under control, not an absence of strength.
Precisely. It's not passive resignation. It's active, purposeful stewardship.
That reframes it perfectly.
Yeah.
Okay, so once that internal core identity and authority is stable, we can move to the next three pillars, which focus on the outward manifestation of that servant-hearted strength.
Exactly. And let's move to pillar 3, vision. If the leader's identity is secured and their authority is surrendered, their vision actually changes. Leadership falters when vision is purely self-generated ambition, a list of things I want to achieve.
Right, my checklist.
Your checklist. But biblical vision, as he describes it, is birthed through revelation and deep alignment with God's overarching eternal plan. And this alignment, it changes everything about your decision-making.
How so?
Well, it leads the leader to see people through a different lens, through God's heart, and it ensures they build an impact that genuinely outlasts their lifetime because they are participating in a much larger narrative. They're building something that is meant to endure, not just something designed to make a quick profit this quarter.
Vision requires connection, though, and that brings us straight to pillar 4, relational trust building. The book argues that trust is the absolute, non-negotiable currency of leadership.
You can't lead without it.
You can't. Without trust, vision is just a memo, and your strategy is just a theoretical exercise on a whiteboard. The insight here is that influence is earned through relentless consistency, compassion, and sacrificial love. It's
Wow.
never, ever demanded.
No.
Strong leaders invest deeply in the safety of their environment. Teams thrive when they know their leader sees them as valuable people, not just as, interchangeable tools to hit a financial target.
And this trust is entirely underpinned by the next one, pillar 5, character and integrity. Integrity is that unseen strength, the absolute alignment between your values and your actions, between what you say you believe and how you actually behave when no one's watching.
Yeah.
Velazquez uses these powerful, contrasting examples. You look at Samson, tremendous, almost superhuman gifting, but he fell dramatically because of a total lack of integrity. Then you look at Joseph. He had integrity applied consistently when he had no title, which resulted in him rising to save an entire nation. Integrity is the credibility engine that outlasts market seasons, political shifts, and personal crises. It makes a leader an unshakable anchor when the organization is facing a storm.
That distinction between giftedness and character is so profound. So many leaders rely on their talent, but only integrity can actually sustain them. Okay, let's talk about the final 3 pillars, which address the enduring impact, how this formed leader ensures their work continues long after they step away.
Right. And pillar 6 is mentoring and discipleship. If you are truly a steward, then your goal can't be the personal accumulation of power. It has to be the multiplication of leadership through others. The focus shifts entirely from how can I execute this strategy to who can I raise up to execute the strategy even better than me. Mentoring is the mechanism for that continuity of values and wisdom transfer.
The book has this great line.
Oh, I know the one you mean. A leader's greatest success is often not what they build, but who they build.
That's it. Legacy is measured not in projects completed, but in leaders equipped.
Exactly.
But that focus on multiplication requires a kind of a steel-like inner fortitude, which leads right into pillar 7, resilience through adversity. Velazquez reminds us that every leader, whether they're running a startup or a global nonprofit, faces these wilderness seasons.
It's inevitable. It could be literal failures, major organizational setbacks, or just intense personal attacks.
And the source material is very clear. These seasons are not meant to diminish leaders. They're meant to purify them. Resilience is born when pain is actively converted into preparation, rather than being allowed to lead to paralysis.
Adversity shapes you into a vessel God or the organization can trust. Without that capacity for resilience, even the most gifted leaders will crumble when the market turns or, the media attack hits.
It just won't last.
They won't.
Hmm.
And synthesizing these 7 pillars brings us to the ultimate result. Pillar 8, legacy. The entire effort of leading from the inside out is focused on long-term impact. The leader redefines success. It's no longer personal achievement or the accumulation of power. It is faithfulness, obedience, and observable transformation in the lives of others.
And that shift is massive.
It's huge. It moves the leader's gaze from short-term wins that get applause now to securing a generational legacy that may only be evident decades later. It's the difference between building sandcastles and laying true foundations.
So after laying out this incredibly deep framework, what's the practical invitation for the listener? Because this isn't just a theological treatise, it's a manual for organizational health.
It is.
Philosophy provides practical tools, things like the identity alignment model, concrete reflection prompts, and real-life case studies from both business boardrooms and ministry settings. They're all designed to convert these abstract spiritual concepts into daily, measurable practice.
Yeah, this is a book meant to be engaged with, practiced, and lived, not just read and put on a shelf.
Definitely.
And we have to finish by reasserting that critical definition of servant leadership. It is not weakness. It is the highest form of disciplined strength, precisely because it operates under a surrendered, purifying authority. It is leadership empowered by aligned values, focused on stewardship, and fundamentally secure in its purpose.
So why does this matter for you, the person listening right now, trying to lead a team or run a company in today's, incredibly intense environment?
Yeah, what's the takeaway?
It's because the modern world demands authenticity, resilience, and a spiritual anchoring from its leaders. Philosophy reminds us, and I think this is a critical takeaway, that innovation without integrity collapses. Influence without character corrupts. Ambition without surrender consumes. You need leaders who lead from within, not just from a title on the door.
And that leads us to our final provocative thought for you to explore as you go back to your desk. If success is immediately redefined by the book standard, not as financial accumulation or popular applause, but as faithfulness, obedience, and alignment, what major current goal in your life right now would you need to reassess and perhaps even dismantle immediately?
Wow.
Just think about that tension between your performance and your internal formation.
That's a fantastic challenge to end on. The journey of leadership is ultimately the journey of the soul. The world is changed not by leaders who merely perform, but by leaders who are profoundly formed.
Well said.
Thank you for diving deep with us today. Until next time, keep leading from the inside out.